10 Children's Fairy Tales with Sinister Hidden Meanings. Welcome to Next Chapter Audio. Here, we dive deep into the magical world of childhood tales, but with a twist. Have you ever wondered what hidden meanings lurk beneath the enchanting stories you grew up with? From playful monkeys to brave princesses, the fairy tales we love may have more sinister layers than we realize. Get ready to explore the fascinating and sometimes dark histories of your favorite childhood tales. Let's turn the page and uncover what lies in the shadows. The magic of princesses, true love's kiss, and battles against evil witches and wizards have made fairy tales beloved by children worldwide for decades. But beneath the cutesy facade of these bedtime fables, many tales have sinister meanings that neither kids nor adults are aware of. Not all fairy tales are what they seem at first glance. Here are 10 children's tales with backstories and hidden meanings that are much more sinister than you might realize. 10. Curious George. Ask any child about Curious George, and they'll probably know this story. These books follow the adventures of a curious young monkey and his owner, the man in the yellow hat. But behind George's antics is a rather dark double meaning. You see, Curious George's authors, Hans Augusto and Margaret Ray, were German Jews living during the Nazi terror in Germany before World War II. While working in Rio de Janeiro, Hans met Margaret, who had fled Germany due to the rising Nazi oppression. They married and honeymooned in Paris, where they decided to stay, relocating to the south of France and beginning to write children's stories about a curious monkey they named Fifi. But soon, Hitler's troops invaded France. As German Jews, the Rays were in double danger, viewed with suspicion by their southern France neighbors for being German, but also hunted by the Nazis for being Jewish. When they wrote the Curious George books, they were unknowingly sharing glimpses of their story through George's eyes. Thanks to an anonymous tip about an upcoming invasion, the authors managed to escape, making their way to Lisbon before returning to Rio, and later to New York, where they became U.S. citizens. Their brushes with danger and narrow escapes inspired them to continue writing Curious George, casting a playful light on what it meant to be on the run, while using their drawings to charm authorities and escape danger numerous times. 9. The Little Match Girl. The Little Match Girl may be called a fairy tale, but despite its sweet exterior, this story is far from something to read to kids at bedtime. Written by Hans Christian Andersen, The Little Match Girl tells a heartbreaking story of poverty in the 1840s. It follows a young girl forced to sell matches on the street to avoid being beaten by her father. Each time she lights a match, she feels a fleeting warmth and a glimmer of hope. Tragically, by the end of the story, the little girl dies out in the cold. Yet, it is painted as a bittersweet ending, with the girl's passing seen as an escape from her harsh reality. In reality, the tale reflects Andersen's real-life encounter with a young girl selling matches in the streets during the Industrial Revolution. This era saw extreme poverty in Europe, with children often sent into the bitter cold to help support their families. While the story might seem whimsical today, The Little Match Girl was, in fact, a commentary on the dark and cruel realities of 1800s Europe, revealing the struggles of those who suffered in the gritty, unforgiving environment of industrial society. 8. The Frog King. The Frog King is one of those classic fairy tales about a princess transforming an unattractive frog into a handsome prince. In the story, a spoiled princess reluctantly befriends the Frog King to repay a favor he did for her. Although she resents it at first, she eventually grows fond of him, and he is revealed to be a prince in disguise. This charming story may appear straightforward, but it carries a deeper, less child-friendly meaning. The original tale by the Brothers Grimm was intended to portray an individual's awakening of their sexuality. The frog symbolizes fertility, and the story depicts the transition from innocent childhood to sexual maturity. Viewed this way, The Frog King becomes less a simple fable about friendship and transformation, and more a subtle, complex exploration of the loss of innocence and the development into adulthood. Through this lens, the story reveals a hidden commentary on maturity that's far more mature than its child-friendly facade. 7. Mother Goose. Mother Goose is often imagined as a kindly old woman, spinning entertaining nursery rhymes for children. But in reality, many of her verses served as subtle social commentary on issues like taxation and inequality. The writer behind Mother Goose skillfully veiled political and social issues in witty rhymes, allowing them to spread under the radar of authorities. One famous example is "Ba Ba Black Sheep." At face value, it's a simple rhyme about a sheep giving away its wool. However, the story goes much deeper. The rhyme critiques the unfair taxation on wool, known as the wool tax of 1275. Under this tax, farmers had to divide their wool yield into thirds. 1/3 went to the king, the master, another to the local nobleman, the dame, and the last portion, barely enough to live on, was left for the farmer himself, the little boy. Rhymes like this served as a cry for justice and a subtle protest against the burdensome levies on everyday people. Mother Goose's rhymes, like many, weren't just cute. They were powerful, coded calls for revolution and reform. 6. The Tinder Box. Long before Aladdin flew in on his magic carpet, Hans Christian Andersen had already penned a similar tale called The Tinder Box. Published in 1835, The Tinder Box explores the rigid social structure and the deep divide between the upper and lower classes of the time. The story centers around a poor soldier who, through a series of magical encounters, finds a way to wealth and power. The soldier's willingness to do whatever it takes to rise above his impoverished circumstances speaks to the lengths people will go to escape poverty. Andersen used this tale to expose the harsh realities faced by the lower class and to critique the privileges held by the wealthy elite. Through the soldier's journey, he highlighted how desperation could push anyone into dangerous or morally questionable situations, including relying on magical means. The Tinder Box subtly reveals the social disparities of Andersen's time and serves as a commentary on the challenging lives of those born into poverty. 5. Peter Rabbit. Beatrix Potter's Peter Rabbit, written over 150 years ago, may seem like a simple tale, warning children to listen to their parents. But the story contains deeper, darker themes and serves as a critique of middle-class values and the strict societal expectations of the time. The story opens with a stern warning to young Peter, who, defying his mother, sneaks into Mr. McGregor's garden. The garden represents a hostile world where survival requires cunning and courage, a reflection of the Darwinian struggle. Through Peter Rabbit, Potter subtly rebelled against her own middle-class family's bourgeois morals, using the animals to symbolize various political and social issues. The story is more than just a life lesson. It's Potter's way of rejecting the wealthy lifestyle and rigid gender roles she grew up with. In creating Peter's risky adventures, Potter not only challenged the norms of her family's upper-class society, but also commented on economic and gender issues that constrained people during her time. 4. The Devil with the Three Golden Hairs. The Devil with the Three Golden Hairs is a dark fairy tale filled with symbolic elements that represent the challenging transition from boyhood to adulthood. Published by the Brothers Grimm in 1812, the story follows a young boy on a journey that metaphorically explores growth, maturity, and the obstacles encountered along the way. In the tale, a king, symbolizing the harsh realities of the adult world, resents the boy and wants him dead, fearing the boy will usurp his place in his daughter's heart. This jealousy represents the parental fears and tensions that can arise as children mature. The boy's journey through the forest reflects the confusing path to adulthood, where he encounters figures like robbers and an old woman who act as guides, symbolizing both temptation and mentorship. His eventual quest to obtain 3 golden hairs from the devil represents his pursuit of maturity, with the devil embodying the fears and challenges of adolescence. By marrying the princess at the end, the boy signifies his readiness to take on adult responsibilities. This complex tale subtly addresses themes of growth, jealousy, and the often daunting journey to adulthood, perhaps echoing the Grimm brothers' own experiences during their formative years. 3. Snow White and Rose Red. Snow White and Rose Red is a lesser-known yet fascinating tale by the brothers Grimm, first published in 1833. Unlike the famous story of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, this story revolves around 2 sisters, Snow White and Rose Red, whose journey to happiness is marked by hardship and loss. Although both girls ultimately find joy, their path is filled with moments of tragedy, showing that happiness often comes at a cost. The Grimm brothers intended this story to highlight that true happiness is rarely free of sorrow. Through the sisters' trials, they suggest that joy and suffering often coexist, and life's happy moments are tempered by inevitable sadness. The tale subtly emphasizes that a happy ending does not erase life's hardships, but rather acknowledges them as part of the journey. Over time, however, this nuanced story has faded into obscurity, overshadowed by the more cheerful and well-known tale of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. 2. Jack-o'-lantern. The jack-o'-lantern is a classic Halloween icon, often lighting up doorsteps and guiding trick-or-treaters on their nighttime adventures. However, the origins of this carved pumpkin tradition are rooted in a much darker Irish folktale from 1835. The story centers on a character named Stingy Jack, a deceitful man who tricked a demon to avoid going to hell. However, Jack was also barred from entering heaven due to his wicked ways. As a result, he was doomed to wander the earth for eternity, lighting his way with a single burning coal. Jack placed this coal inside a hollowed-out turnip, giving rise to the name Jack of the Lantern, or jack-o'-lantern. The Irish would carve turnips or potatoes with frightening faces, believing these lanterns would scare off evil spirits, including Stingy Jack himself, to protect their families from harm. While today the jack-o'-lantern has become a fun Halloween tradition, its original purpose was much more sinister, serving as a supernatural safeguard against malevolent spirits. 1. Godfather Death. Godfather Death is a grim cautionary tale that subverts the classic fairy tale format. Published by the Brothers Grimm in 1812, this story is more of an anti-fairy tale. There is no happy ending, no true love, and no triumph over adversity. Instead, Godfather Death serves as a stark reminder of the inevitable nature of death and the consequences of moral compromise. It tells of a man who chooses death as the godfather for his son, hoping that death's impartiality will bring him power and fortune. However, the son eventually tries to deceive death, only to face dire consequences. The story emphasizes that no one, regardless of wealth or social status, can escape death. It warns children against defying rules and indulging in dangerous vices. Beyond the personal consequences, Godfather Death also highlights themes of justice and inequality, reflecting a world where even death's neutrality cannot shield individuals from life's harsh realities. Ultimately, it is a tale meant to frighten children into obedience, illustrating the unforgiving nature of the world and the inevitability of fate. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the hidden depths of fairy tales on Next Chapter Audio. If you enjoyed peeling back the layers of these beloved stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss our next deep dive. Let us know in the comments which tale surprised you the most, and which stories you'd like us to explore next. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep turning the page with Next Chapter Audio.